Hey, what's up guys, it's Hedrymas here back with another guide. Today I'm going to be going over the Elemental Shaman in 8.1.5. Elemental Shaman right now is one of the strongest DPS choices, and personally, I think it's the most fun spec you can play right now. So if you haven't tried it yet, you should definitely give it a shot. So this guide is mainly going to be for raiding, as I don't do Mythic Plus very often, except for my weekly key. But I will go over some things related to Mythic Plus as well. First, let's go over the talents. There's different talent choices for different situations, but for the ideal talent setup, I'm mainly going to be referring to single target. For the first row, you want to pick either Earth and Rage or Echo of the Elements. Earth and Rage will just give you some decent damage overall without changing anything, while Echo of the Elements will give you 2 stacks of Lava Burst, so your rotation changes there a bit. For single target and most, if not all bosses, you should be going for Echo of the Elements, as the 2 stacks of Lava Burst will help a lot, and it has very good synergy with the best Azerite trait. For the second row, the choice is between Aftershock and Totem Mastery. Aftershock will give your spells like Earthquake and Earthshock a 25% chance to refund their Maelstrom cost. This should only really be used for Mythic Plus, where there's a lot of AoE going on since it's very unreliable and it's only really strong on 5 or more targets. Totem Mastery will give you 1 Maelstrom every second, 5% overload chance for Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning, 10% Flame Shock damage and 2% haste. This is the ideal pick for raids, as the bonuses are very solid and you won't have the problem as much where you run out of range of your totems, unlike in dungeons. For the next row, you usually want to go for Spirit Wolf, as it will give you up to 20% damage reduction. Granted, you are in Spirit Wolf for 4 seconds, which is really useful if, for example, you get mechanics where you have to get somewhere while taking damage, or you can't damage the boss right now and there's no reason not to be in Ghost Wolf. You can also opt for static charge for Mythic Plus, but it's usually not needed and kind of a niche pick. Earth Shields should never be picked really, maybe for solo content, but even then it's probably not even worth it. For the next row we have Master of the Elements, Storm Elemental and Liquid Magma Totem. Master of the Elements will give the damage of your next nature, physical or frost spell 20% extra damage. This is the default pick for raiding, and it's also very useful in Mythic Plus. The next talent is Storm Elemental, which is a good pick as well, and it gets some good AoE, especially if you have Primal Elementalist. But this talent is still weaker on most encounters than Master of the Elements, if Master of the Elements is used correctly. The last talent on the row is Liquid Magma Totem, and it's really solid, especially for dungeons, as it's going to give you some consistent AoE damage on a fairly short cooldown. Now the next talent row we have Nature's Guardian, Ancestral Guidance and Windrush Totem. The default pick here is Nature's Guardian, as it doesn't require you to do anything, and it will give you a free heal every 45 seconds if you drop below 35% health. Then we have Ancestral Guidance, which isn't super useful, but it can be very useful on high damage phases, especially if it's combined with burst AoE damage. So for example in Mythic Plus, if you go on a plus 10 key or higher. Then the third talent is Windrush Totem, which is only really useful if your raid needs it, which is not very often, but if it is useful in the raid, then it's actually really useful, because the only people that can give a movement speed cooldown like this is Feral Druids, Guardian Druids, and Elemental Shaman. Not Elemental Shaman, any Shaman spec. The next talent row, the 2 useful options are Primal Elementalist and Ice Fury. Surge of Power is generally not used, as it's hard to use properly, and it's only really good on some fight lengths, and the other talents are way stronger in general. Primal Elementalist will make your elemental stronger, it will give you control over them and give them an extra ability. This ability you can use by yourself, so you need to make a keybind for it. Or it's preferred if you make a keybind for it at least. The strongest pick, however, in this row is Ice Fury. Using this ability will make your next 4 Frost Shocks deal 200% extra damage, and they will generate some Maelstrom, plus the initial usage of Ice Fury also gives you some Maelstrom. This is very strong as it does high damage, it has good synergy with Master of the Elements, and it can be used on the move without losing any damage. Well, the initial ability can be used on the move, but if you use it and then you need to start moving, then you can use your Frost Shocks, which you can use on the move. Now for the last row, there's only really one option, which is Stormkeeper. The ability has a strong single target component and AoE burst component. It also has good synergy with Master of the Elements, making it a very strong pick. Ascendance right now is not strong enough to be picked at all, and unlimited power only really becomes stronger with more mastery, but since mastery is one of our worst stats, it's not worth picking it ever. Now let's get into the rotation. So let's assume you don't have either Master of the Elements or Ice Fury. Then the rotation is just maintaining Flame Shock, using Lava Burst on cooldown, and using Earth Shock before capping on Maelstrom, while also using your Fire Elemental on cooldown, as well as Stormkeeper. This is quite easy to do and it's not very complicated, as you can see here. I'm gonna put down my totems and just play normally. It's really easy to do. I have a proc, I use the proc. And we keep going like this. Okay. Now let's add Master of the Elements to the mix. So what Master of the Elements does is after you cast Lava Burst, your next nature, physical or frost spell gains 20% extra damage. So to make the most use of this talent, the goal is to use every single proc on whatever ability gains the most value from it. So the rotation changes from using Lava Burst on cooldown to using Lava Burst on cooldown, granted that we don't have a Master of the Elements buff active. So of course there's plenty of situations where you might be using 2 Lava Bursts in a row, but that's not the general idea on a stationary single target situation. So now the priority list for using the proc goes as follows. First you use Earthquake on 2 or more targets, then you use Lightning Bolt if it's empowered by Stormkeeper, then Earth Shock, then Frost Shock if it's empowered by Ice Fury, then normal Lightning Bolt, and then Frost Shock if it's unempowered by Ice Fury. So as you can see, in most situations it's most beneficial to use the proc on Earth Shock, so our main goal should be to always use Earth Shock together with the proc for the most damage. Now if we add Ice Fury to the mix, this gives us another DPS ability to press. This all doesn't sound too complicated, but once you start combining all of these things together, you do realize that it's actually quite hard to use abilities like Ice Fury and Stormkeeper on cooldown without wasting any of its uses. This is due to the high amount of procs you can get from Lava Burst sometimes, and it's mainly noticeable on multiple targets, but on single target it can happen a lot as well. So while doing the rotation, I'm going to turn ability tracking on, as you can see on the left side. So this should help you somewhat with tracking what abilities I'm casting, because there's a lot of different things and it's really hard to explain it while doing the rotation. But anyway, I'm gonna start the rotation now. Oh, as you can see, I forgot my totem, but that's okay. As you see, I'm weaving my abilities. So here I could use Lava Burst, but I know that if I use it now, I'm gonna gain more damage by using it on Earth Shock instead. Again, used on Earth Shock. Here we can use one on Ice Fury, and see, it's already nearly run out, and now we can use it on Earth Shock again. We get another proc, we can just use it normally. Wait half second, and we use it on Earth Shock again. Our Earth Shocks can pretty much crit for 90k, which is pretty insane if you think about it. I don't want to use it on Ice Fury, I do want to use it on Earth Shock again, so I delayed my Lava Burst proc a little bit, because the chance I would get another Lava Burst proc is really low. So you see, now we have the situation where we would have overcapped if we were a little bit more unlucky. So here I want to use Stormkeeper, then use this. Ah, I fucked up, okay. Now we can use it on Earth Shock again. So the most important part is tracking how many Lava Bursts you have available and then playing accordingly, as well as the duration on your Ice Fury and also your Stormkeeper and so on. So as you can see, 27k on single targets. This is without actually having the mage buff or anything. So as you can see, Elemental Shaman right now is really strong. Okay, so now that I showed rotation on one target, I'm first gonna go over the Azerite traits. So for the Azerite traits, the first thing that you're gonna notice is that Igneous Potential is the best by far. You want to get 3 of these as fast as you can because it will buff the damage of your Lava Burst like crazy. And just in general, getting more proc chance on it and so on. It's all around an insane trait. It used to be shit. Well, at the start of the expansion, you wanted one of them. Then it got really shit. Then they buffed it, and now it's insanely strong. For the rest, you just want to be going for whatever else you have on your gear really. Because if you have a piece with igneous potential, it doesn't matter what other trait is on there, it's probably going to be better to use that piece, even if it's a trait that's this far down, for example. So mainly for the traits, you want to be simming yourself, looking at the list on Blood Mallet, just seeing which ones sim the highest, and that's basically it for Azerite traits. Just the important part is having igneous potential traits, as many as you can have. Now for the stats, it actually kind of depends on what gear you have, because you should be simming yourself to see what stats are the strongest. In general, the priority goes as intellect, versatility, critical strike, haste and then mastery. But in some cases it changes. For example, my item level on this character is high enough that versatility actually sims higher. I can actually check it here. If I go to weights, intellect is 2.25, but my versatility is actually 2.96. Then my crit is 2.63, haste 2.62. So as you can see, I have 3 different stats that are above intellect. So if you're geared as fuck, or just on the higher item level, then it's best to just sim yourself, because following a generic priority isn't going to do much for you. So now that we got this out of the way, I'm going to also show you a little bit of the rotation on 2 targets. On 2 targets it gets you gain a lot of DPS on a single target, but it does get quite a bit more difficult because you get a lot more lava burst procs, which makes it harder to manage. Even if you fuck up those procs, you would still do more damage, but if you manage to somehow use them perfectly, then you're actually going to gain a lot of damage. So let's try it out here. Remember that on the left side you can see what abilities I'm casting, so you can follow what I'm doing. As you can see, we're gonna get a lot more procs, like it is just procking non-stop, and it's super easy to cap on Maelstrom like this. See, I have a proc again. I pretty much have a proc for every single ability. Capped. See, I couldn't even use all my Ice Fury stacks, that's how many procs you get. So in between every ability, you can pretty much cast a Lava Burst. There I even got 2 procs and one global. Here again, my Ice Fury procs are nearly gone. Actually, I don't know if I fitted that one in. But as you can see, on 2 targets you actually gain quite a bit of DPS. This DPS is mainly single target, but it's really useful for movement fights. So for example, if it's a movement fight, for example, let's say Opulence Mythic, you have to run around to dodge the blasts. It's pretty easy, like if you keep getting procs. So let's say you just use Ice Fury, you just use Lava Burst proc, Earth Shock, Ice Fury, Lava Burst, Ice Fury, Flame Shock again for example, Ice Fury, Lava Burst, Earth Shock, Refresh Flame Shock. Like you see, you can spend a long time moving while DPSing. This is also one of the reasons why I think Elemental Shaman is great, even though the perception of it is pretty bad. But in general, I think Elemental Shaman is really good for DPS. It doesn't lose a lot while moving compared to any other class in the game. Now for big AoE, the rotation is pretty simple. All you do is Chain Lightning and put your Earthquake down. That's literally all you have to do. What I usually do is I Flame Shock as well, and then if I get a proc for Lava Burst to use it on the Earthquake, then I will use it for Earthquake. So here I get a proc, I use it on Earthquake. And usually I just use the Lava Burst on the highest priority target, so that one dies quicker. Because in general, if there's AoE, there's usually mobs that need to die quicker and mobs that are less important. So you can always focus the priority target while actually still doing really good AoE damage. Anyway, that was it for the guide. I don't think I forgot anything, but if I did, please ask your questions in the comments and I'm going to reply to them. But anyway, thanks for watching the video and I'll see you guys in the next one.